So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to cut a section of a model, and this assumes that you have the whole building modeled. You're basically done with it. Everything's been like enclosed. I know I told you guys, you know, it's not important to model things that won't be seen. If you're going to cut a section through your whole model, you do actually have to model your building, like everything in your building, because you're going to be cutting, you know, through it. Okay. If you're just doing like renderings of the outside or of certain rooms, then just model the things that you're going to see. Okay. I'm showing you this. You might use this now, or you might use it later, but at least you'll have seen it, and it's something that you can do. Okay. You don't have to do this for your project, but you might. So if you turn on the section layer, you see that I made a mass that is inside of, hang on a second here. I made a mass that my model fits inside. So this is my model, and I gave it a base. And then I made this, this block, and the block completely encloses it, you know, top to bottom, and it basically cuts it in half. You can use any shape you want and then extrude it, okay? I just did a kind of a typical like longitudinal section. There's different things you could do. If you had a model that was really well done and that was a solid, like if it was watertight, you could attempt a Boolean. And this is actually going to prove a point that I made a while back, but I don't know if I made it that well. You can do a Boolean. You can say do a Boolean difference, right? And you guys don't do this. You don't need to do this. And it says select the first set of surfaces. So I'm going to go ahead and select everything on this layer. And then press enter for the second set. And the idea is that I would be subtracting the volume from everything in the first selection. Okay? That makes a lot of sense, right? It's gonna like remove all that stuff.
Can you say it again? Sorry.
Okay, so to do a Boolean, you have two things, right? You have one set of objects and a second set of objects, and you're gonna basically cut away the first object using the second object. The first object is the model. The second object is the mass. Okay, and I chose the first set, and then I pressed enter, and then I chose the second set, and I'm gonna click on this, select the second set. Hang on a second here. It's got not letting me select. Oh, it's locked. Can't do that. Choose the second set and press enter. Boolean difference in progress. Oh, Boolean difference failed. Okay. When you're doing a complicated form with something and you're making the subtraction, it doesn't like always work. And this is one of these cases with this model, which is not a very good model, which honestly is probably more like the models you guys are going to be making. Your first time modeling the building is not going to be extremely well crafted. Even with a well crafted model, Booleans can fail, which is why I want to show you guys different methods. It's not saying that it can't work. It's just saying that it usually doesn't, and it especially doesn't when you need it to. Okay? And right now it's not working. So Boolean difference failed. How do we do a Boolean then, or how do we do a section? Well, there's a couple methods. I'm going to show you one method right now. I'm going to do a split. So S-P-L-I-T, split. Select objects to split. Well, the objects that we want to split are the Unity temple. Okay? Press enter when done. Fine. Select the cutting object. The cutting object is this big block that we have. Okay? Now press enter. Crunch, 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 crunch. Now it'll say like split failed or whatever. It's actually fine because if you let it do its thing, it's still working. Because it's actually doing a split like multiple times. I'm going to turn this off now. Check that out. Now you can't really tell, but if you select it, those objects have actually been removed. Check this out. It's like I'm sawing a lady in half. Whoa! Now, what's up? What's wrong with that? Though, like, what's not great about that? What's that?
I don't know.
Oh, come on. You could park an aircraft carrier in there. It's hollow. It's not a solid. It's not like a, like you actually made a section model. It's all surface. So, that's a problem. How can we fix that? What are the things we know how to do? You could try capping it. That's not a bad idea. Let's give that a shot. When do caps work? What does a cap do?
If you're extruding like with a polymer, like
if you extrude something and it doesn't have a top or a bottom, you can cap it, right? When you extrude something, it's actually usually it makes like a planar form, which means it's like a plane, it's flat. You can't cap a non-planar shape. Okay, do these appear planar? Is there a flat side, like a 90 degree, 180 degree, 0 degree, flat side? Yeah, I think so. Doesn't hurt to experiment, unless it does. But let's choose this side, and then let's say cap. Not bad. Not bad. That doesn't always work, okay? You should try it, because, I mean, that didn't take me any time at all. I can type cap, okay? But there's something else that you can do that's sneakier that works almost all the time. So let's keep that, and let's close that back up. Actually, I'm going to go ahead, and I'm going to hide. I'm going to delete half of this, just because. Okay, so that's gone. And now, oh, you know what? I did the wrong thing, though. I want to delete the other side. Let's delete the other side. Okay. This is not something that I think is kind of standard, but it works for me. So, we still have this piece that we use to split this. We're going to do the opposite. So we're going to split this with all this.
Sneaky.
Sneaky indeed. Don't mess with me. Now this might hurt because it's actually going to look at all those objects and that face of that. And it's like all the objects to one face as opposed to one face to all the objects. And so what we're hopefully going to get is kind of a, you know, if this is like our cookie cutter and this is our dough, it's going to give us that cookie. And that cookie would be a face that can go in front of our model and hopefully cover it. Okay. It might take a little while. It's gonna crunch for a minute. I might not be able to do this actually while I'm talking. Oh, okay. Let's see what we got. It might not work very well. I don't know. Yeah, well, it looks like it only did a couple pieces. Oh, wait a minute. No, wait a minute. What's that? Look at that edge there. Okay, let's see what we got. Hang on a minute. Let's go ahead and turn off the model. Yeah. You know, I think it actually has to touch it. Okay, let's try something else here.
Can you draw an outline of the whole thing and just project it onto that face?
Do you draw a line and project it onto the face?
And just split that.
You mean draw like the edge of all this?
Yeah.
You could do that and then use that to trim the surface.
Yeah.
That's essentially what a split is, though. Yeah. One thing I can try really quickly is to just slightly, like, slide this over. Because it actually needs to, like, penetrate it slightly, just like a cookie cutter would. And then we can take that piece and just bump it back. Let's give that a shot really quick. See if that does anything. Split this with that. Okay, see if that works. And that may still take a while. But yeah, so that's just the idea. What's a third like nuclear option that we could do to actually cap all those things? What could we do? If we had all the time in the world and infinite resources.
Just redraw.
Yeah, you could actually take a line tool, right, and draw over the edges of it and then make them planar surfaces. Which, for your models, guys, you know, might work. Like, you may not have very complicated models, okay?
Yeah.
Not maybe Unity temple grade, you know, models, right? Not yet, at least.
Are you rendering these sections?
I'm going to. I'm going to show you. I mean, you can. It says split failed, but let's see if it did anything. Yeah, it might not work too well. Well, there's options like that. has worked for me. For some reason, that's not working right now. But those are ideas. I think like what Stefan's talking about could also work, where you get the edges of these and you project them onto a surface. I was actually hoping that would try one more thing. Could just draw a surface. And see if that won't so instead of a box, just sort of let that go on there. Okay. So see, like that's actually, I mean, you know what we could do actually is do like the intersection of this with everything else. And that's going to give us a bunch of lines, and then we could trim and join those lines and then make them planar surfaces, and then that would actually give us a surface as well. So there's lots of different ways to do this, depending upon your circumstances. You know, some of them are going to work, some of them are not going to work so well. So that's why I try to teach you guys different methods. The easiest thing would be to split it and cap it. If you have a nice straight like section, I think that's going to work for you. If you have an oddly shaped section, you're going to need to resort to something like this. Like this is, or some kind of a more complicated split operation. Okay. But see, it's actually running running a surface intersection for every object that intersects that plane. Crazy.
So now if that works, like, then you're going to have trimmed off a little bit of your section, wherever because you push that the plane back into the.
Yeah, but it's pretty much going to be okay. I haven't like gone past any shapes, so if I just knock that back, yeah, it should be fine. Okay. But I think you do actually have to penetrate it. If it's just touching it, I don't think it's always going to find the intersection. Got to push it in the dough. So anyway, I think this method actually would work. So you would get all these curves, and then you trim them up, and that wouldn't take you that long, and then just make a surface out of those, and that'll give you like actually one clean surface that you then just move in the X and snap it to the end. Okay. So let's just assume that all that's going to work here. Okay. Okay, and I'm going to remove this. Let's go back to Andy's method here. It's easy. Pretty good. Yeah. So if you go into Maxwell, I'm just going to, you don't have to do this, I'm just showing you like what you get. Way blown up. I have set, my settings in this file are actually set up for a different rendering, but we can change that. That's not a problem. Let's just make this. Yeah. So depending upon how you view it, you know, you're going to get that view of your building, okay, as a section, and this is actually a place where. So that's just the left view, you know, just a flat orthographic view. That's a good section. You could do a Paul Rudolph from here. Remember how we do this? We change the projection to perspective, and then we go in and we can, with the camera settings, play with the lens length and dolly. To give us the flat edge, but then give it actually depth to it as well. So that's a nice like section piece. Okay.
Are those surfaces modeling materials? Like
this is actually diffuse. Like actually in this file, I included some files with this, and they didn't like seem to come in quite right. You'll notice they have this chipboard material. I made it look like a model, but for some reason it's not. It didn't show up in the files I gave you. But I made this look like a model, you know, like it was like a basswood on a chipboard base, but it's not showing up. Okay, I think when you move files around, you gotta be careful not to break the associations. If you do that though, you can just go ahead and add the materials back on it again. Okay, so there's that. Any questions about just making a section model? Yeah, it's nice. It's a good thing. It's a good thing to know how to do. Okay, I'm gonna just refresh my file so that I can get back to this. So if you just load the file again, it'll pop back up. I'm gonna look at an interior rendering, and I have another camera that I put together that's called Interior View. Whoa, wait a minute.
I do have one question. So do you think that model was built by extruding planes?
Yeah, you can look at if you look at like the sides of things, like there's these seams in it where it wants to be one piece. There's things sitting inside of each other. That's because the exterior walls were extruded and then the interior walls were extruded. Some of the roof lines, like that roof line, then they just added these like squinch pieces in. It's not a great. It's okay. Like if you render it, you don't really notice the difference, but it is not a clean. It'd be hard to like fab this, let's say. And it's just not a clean. If you did make 2D, you'd have additional lines on it and stuff like that. So, okay. So yeah.
I'm sorry, so you would like our quality to be better than this?
Yeah.
For what we're training?
I would like it to be.
How would you fix, where you were talking about with the 3 sections?
With the roof sections.
Where-
Oh, how would I fix it?
Added in.
Yeah.
Redraw it.
Yeah, redraw it. Just take it. What I would do is I would take this and select these, and then I would do, well, just get rid of that. And then I would do select invert. I'm sorry, I'm on cameras here. Select invert, hide everything, hide this guy. So I've got this, and I'm just playing with that. Then I would take the edge of this, and then I would add these outlines to it, or you could just trace it with your with the line tool, and then I'd re-extrude it, and then I would erase these. There's no I can't just Boolean these things together, and that won't get rid of the lines. Okay. That'll just basically group them. Okay. Booleans aren't that smart, but you are. You're smarter. Okay. So yeah, that's how you clean it up. Good. That's a good question. I mean, that's a good review of what we've done. Okay. So this is great because I actually lost my camera that I put in here. So now I'm going to make a camera. So the first step, right, is to take a perspective view and get it reasonably kind of located. So I have a camera that's looking inside the building, let's say, and then I turn on the camera, F6, or if you don't have the keyboard for that, show camera. So now there's where my camera is. Actually, my camera's outside the building. Let's go inside the temple. Turn snaps off. That's going to get in your way. And actually, you want to probably lock the model as well. Okay, we're getting there. So I'm inside, and I'm going to adjust my target. And I need to adjust the lens length too. Okay. I think I'm inside of something here. I don't want to be. Ah, that looks temple-y. That's a word. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to pull back a bit and grab my. Hope I got the right point here. No, I didn't. Don't want the awful point. There we go. Okay, so I've got that. Now, a point that I made, remember guys, I want the vertical lines. We want the vertical lines to be vertical. These are slightly slanted, right? To get rid of that, what that is because that's a 3-point perspective. Like there are vanishing points on the horizon and there's a vanishing point above us because we're looking slightly up, okay? To get rid of that, you need to not be looking up. So what you do is you go into that camera and you want to take the camera location Z and make it the same as the target location Z. So if that's -3 and that's -3, look at that, vertical lines. So we've taken the 3-point perspective and made it a 2-point perspective, okay? So then you're like, well, how do I get a view of what's like up there? You can do 2 things. You can adjust the lens length some more, creating additional, kind of distortion in the plane, but you're still preserving the verticals. Or you can move the entire assembly up and down because these points are now in the same level. So if I want to go up, I just go up. And you see how that keeps that? And if I move around, it keeps that. So if you move the armature point when both of your points Z's are the same, the camera point and the target point, you'll preserve that vertical line.
So, like, say you wanted to take a view from, like, standing on street level up 4 floors back, how would you make the lines vertical?
You make the Z's the same, and then you have to adjust the focal length.
But if you make the Z's the same, won't it be like you're 4 stories high looking at the button?
Well, that would be, I mean, again, you could put your camera street level, keep the verticals the same. I mean, I guess if you want to be aimed directly at it, yeah, you'd actually have to move up pretty high. I mean, because if you make the camera at one point and the target at another point, or vice versa, it's going to introduce that distortion. So you have to be sneaky. What you could do is take a view and then crop it so that it's only looking through that piece, you know. But I don't think I explicitly explained this. Like I told you that I wanted you to do it, but the idea is that you want to make them 2-point perspectives, not 3-point perspectives. There's nothing like wrong with a 3-point perspective. Like our architects draw them, but you guys, you know, it makes the image less stable. This is a nice, you know, that's a nice view, you know. You'd save that, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
So if I go into name views and interior, save that view. So then, okay, so I go into Maxwell. And this is going to be a little bit different because the materials aren't in, but the principle is going to be the same. Let's go into Fire. Now, that is what I would get with the settings that I used on the outside, right? The EV is like 13. It's a low exposure. If you're taking pictures inside, you guys might know this from taking camera, you have to gather more light. You got to leave the lens open like longer. You have to increase the exposure of the image, okay? So you can see that though that it's just black. Like, so what we want to do is we go into the scene manager, go into the values, and watch this as I begin to reduce. Now notice what also happens too. It actually takes longer to even produce the target render. Let's go all the way back. Let's go all the way down. So you don't see anything, but as it takes longer to gather the light, you see more in the image, okay? And you can, this is what I like about Fire, is that you can kind of intuitively get a sense of the settings that you want instead of having to render the whole stupid thing for like a half an hour. Like, can you imagine how many times you'd have to do this? I can, because I used to do it. Okay, so you can play with that until you get an exposure value that is going to illuminate your space. Now watch what happens with those windows though, right? They get kind of blown out. That's actually just what happens in a lot of cases. Like if you take a picture from inside and it's relatively dark and the only light's coming from a small light source, those windows are going to blow out. Like you won't even see what's outside because all you get is the light because you've left the shutter open, right? But what that does is that this is not a very bright space, but by leaving the shutter open, I gather enough light to actually look at the space, okay? So for your interior renderings, by and large, you're going to have to set a low EV. It's going to be a different EV than your exterior rendering, okay? What's that? Not really. No, that's a good question. You can put lights in your space in the way that you would, you know, if you're photographing a model or something to get different lights in it. I just don't want it. You guys don't have time to like do this. Like monkeying with lights will take you like a day. Okay, let's just do it with EV and daylight. Again, I could teach a semester on lights. It's like ridiculous. Okay, this is pretty. Now this doesn't look very good, but you can see that this does illuminate the space. Okay, if I go into my files, I'll show you what you get. Proof that there is literally light at the end of the tunnel. That's with the materials I had applied. So that took a half hour. It's still a little grainy, but because again, it has to gather more light to produce the image than the other method. Your exterior renderings will take less time than your interior renderings because it's going to take a long time to gather that light up, okay? That's not bad. I think it's pretty good. Like it frames those columns really nicely. It creates kind of a halo around it. Like that could easily be your building. Okay. So hopefully you have windows in your building, you know, so that you can get light. Think about the space you want to take that interior picture of, right? And you know, think about where you want to stand and what time of day, because again, a lot of this is dependent upon what my settings are, right? Like this is 9 in the morning. You know, if I get that noon light, you know, it's gonna be a little bit different. If I get that evening light, it's gonna be coming from a different direction. You know, so these settings are going to affect your final output. Okay. One thing that I didn't show you guys is that for fire, if you right-click the fire window, so this is essentially like a mini Maxwell, right? You can change the sampling level. So this does 5 samples. You can increase that to be more, so that I get more refinements. Quality is gonna increase the sampling. Now, when you increase those, it increases the time that the preview takes. So you want to find a balance between speed and quality. Okay. So if I go back and do this again, see, it's gonna take. Look at that progress bar, just crawl, because the quality's better. It's gonna take more samples, but it's a better image though. Okay. If you have a lot of fine lighting effects, you might want to do this. Or maybe you kind of hone in on it. You start really rough until you just think you got it, and then you kind of adjust these settings, and then you do some tweaks. Not too bad. Notice how changing the daytime, you know, changing the time of day actually changed that light quite a bit. There's like a little bit of shadow on that like level now. It's not too bad. Okay, so that's for the interior rendering. That's how you handle an interior rendering. Not that different from the outside. Just the exposure is the hard part. And again, it's going to take longer because it just to gather the light, it takes longer.
So that was done without any interior light switches or something?
Yep, just exterior. And that's kind of what, now again, buildings have lights, but like I'm not going to cover it. I think, you know, you want to be able to think about the effect that daylighting is going to have in your space. If you adjust the exposure, you could pretty much light your space. You know, if you had the right exposure, you could probably light a space with a candle. You know.
If our project revolves around the calendar and the window, is there any way that you could go over that?
Yes, yeah. If you absolutely needed lights, I could talk to you about it. It's just like we have a limited amount of time, so I didn't. But yeah, that's possible. The one thing I won't talk about doing is night rendering. How to do because to do a night rendering, you have to light everything in your space, which is like you have to do all the lights in your building, basically. You can kind of fake it, but it doesn't look as good. It's like putting Christmas lights in a shoebox. It's just not going to be. It's not easy. Notice though that when I reduce the size of this, the noise dissipates somewhat. Yeah. Okay, so that takes care of that. I was going to talk about site cuts, but actually I remember that I talked about this when we did the site sections of the cemetery. So if you go back in the video, there's actually a piece where I take a volume and I use that to excavate part of the site. Okay, I think it's like the 3rd video. I'll post a link to that moment in the thing for you guys, okay? And that way we can just talk more in class and you guys can work, okay? I don't think we need to cover that. Like we've covered site work. If you go back to that original site section and putting the paths on the site, right? Yeah, I think that covers it. Any like technical kind of rendery questions based on what we've looked at so far? Like,
I'm sure I'll have some.
Okay. Well, okay. So you know this should get you what you need to do your interior and your exterior rendering. You know, barring any like additional stuff that your particular building like requires. We've covered most of the material. So Tuesday, it would be really great if you had your model and you had your renderings, you know, your 2 nice renderings, just like the rough material output, because that's where we're going to start on Tuesday. That's what Lindsay and Carrie are going to start with, okay? They're going to show us, like, you go to a website, you're going to cut people out of photos like we did, you're going to put them in the picture, you're going to adjust the contrast, you're going to kind of blur them slightly to do composition, you're going to add trees, stuff like that. It's going to really enrich your model, you know.
So you're saying having it basically like this
Yeah, like
mini temple model.
if you had like this by Tuesday, you're still on schedule. Like you're good to go because it's probably take you like a few hours to add the people and stuff like that. Okay. I mean, again, if you know what Betsy would want. I mean, if Betsy would be okay with like this, like that's what you got to do. You got to work for Betsy. Okay. Because you can start a week after she's done to do any of this stuff for me, okay? I don't need to see it for another week, okay? So work towards what she needs and what's best for your project. But that's if you want to give her these nice renderings. I think by Tuesday that's what you want, okay? Because by Tuesday you'll know exactly what to do. Okay, excellent. So I'm gonna post this tonight, and I will post the link to the video about site work. And I'll come around, and Sam will come around, and we'll help you guys out.
Just out of curiosity, you're not going to be around this weekend, are you?
I'll be around Sunday.
Okay.
That's my work day.
Okay.